Hey, and welcome to the after show for Houdini and Doyle. Today we're talking about the season finale, episode 10, the Pall of LaPier. There's a lot of crazy stuff that went down. Maybe they solved some crimes, maybe not. Stay tuned.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AFTERBUZZ TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
Hey guys, welcome to Houdini and Doyle after show. We're so sad it's the finale. It's over.
Rolling thunder and everything. This song is like the perfect
moody
way
music
to go out.
I know. And then, hey, we tried to reach out the actors. We love them, but we were like, hey, on Twitter, we're like, can you call in, please? But we still love them anyways.
The old college try. This season just flew by, though.
It did. It was one of those like, oh, wait, I should have emailed them sooner. I'm your host, Kari Lane. You can find me online at Kari D Lane. That's Karidlane. And I tried to curl my hair for you guys. And I'm also on Dead of Summer, which is set in the 80s, so it kind of had some 80s fluff. But anyways, that was my theme into our period piece show. I opened with curly hair and I closed with curly hair.
There we go. Just solid bookends.
Yes, exactly.
Bookending the show.
Somebody I know was like, they were at Target or somewhere and they were trying to find bookends and the people didn't know what they were talking about.
I love how you tied it into literal bookends.
She online was like, please, somebody tell me you know what bookends are. And I'm like, absolutely.
Yeah.
But apparently there's at least one employee that's like, what is it?
Oh, it was an employee that didn't know?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
So it's like, oh, no.
Well.
Anyway, on
moral of the story is read more, guys.
Yes. On the other end of the table, not really bookends because we don't have on either side, but still, I got my awesome co-host.
You guys are bookending me. That's what it is.
Yeah. Aha. So why don't you introduce yourself?
Well,
you're the middle of the bookend.
I am Ty Matthews. As always, you can find me on Twitter, on Instagram, Snapchat, MySpace, various other social medias at Ty Matthews PMA.
And when I'm not bookending Ty, you can follow me on Twitter, Frank Moran at HappyGoJackie.
It's a side gig.
Do you still use MySpace?
I just stumbled across my old page.
Oh, wow.
That was like a time capsule.
I would need help to log back in because I'm like...
That's exactly what I had to do.
I don't remember my password. I think I made it easy, but then I was like, no.
I had to fill out a whole form because I couldn't get into the old email, the old AOL email address that it was attached to.
I
Were
probably
they
saw
messages?
my one.
From like an old friend that has been desperately
I haven't even checked the messages.
Wow.
I've just been looking at the photos.
That would be
Pretty much just everything from like 03 to 08 about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fun.
It's pretty awesome.
Well, speaking of time capsule, this show is a time capsule.
Nice.
Man, all kinds
segue.
of don't really have any facts today, finale, because there's so much I want to talk about. But I'm sorry I forgot your name, but somebody reached out on Twitter and did a link to facts you didn't know about Conan Doyle, which thank you for sharing that. I'll re-link that. So check out Twitter and I'll tag them too. So look for that to see some other facts. Some of those were ones I had covered before, and then some of them were new. So that was really cool to read about. And then I will link again what books I used. And since it was non-for-profit, yes, I used those without permission, but that's okay. Yeah. But maybe you guys will go get those books, and I got them at the library. Anyway.
And watch that Adrian Brody Houdini movie.
Yes,
too.
watch the Adrian Brody Houdini movie. It's actually really good. And now I want to watch, like, there's at least one or two older Houdini movies that I would like to go watch.
Sure.
And it totally makes me want to rewatch Sherlock, too.
Yeah, absolutely. Sherlock.
That one needs to hurry up with the new season.
Guys, throw in Brody Quest if you want to take a break.
And Brody Quest. Yes. Have you watched it yet? It's just think of us when you're watching.
That's right. Especially during
this
that 10-hour
guy was
mega
laughing
cut.
so much. There's a 10-hour version of it, too. It's insane. Anyway.
That's going to be our next after show, is watching that baby.
Yes. All right. Let's get into this episode. Don't hold your breath or hold your breath. Actually, that was never really brought up or anything like that. But breathing, because air, which we learned is a problem later. So we open up on which I thought he was a priest, and then I thought they called him a couple other titles during this show. Did you guys notice?
Just priest and reverend.
Okay.
And Farley.
Because I was like, oh, okay, that was the third one. Because I was like, I couldn't recall. Anyways, he's sleeping in the stairwell, which looks probably like it's really uncomfortable.
Yeah, right.
You're like, what a weird spot to fall asleep. He must have been really tired. He gets up and goes and rings the bell, goes outside, and something weird that nothing happened with it. His fingertips were black, and I thought there'd be something with it. I don't know. I felt that was suspicious.
I didn't even catch that. I should have been watching closer.
Maybe because I just watched this movie, and to reveal corruption, they sprayed banknotes and as you lick it and count it, it will stain your tongue black.
Oh, interesting.
Which is really cool.
That's pretty awesome.
It's a Bollywood movie called Unguli.
All right.
And that was like sorry for spoiler there, but still, it's a great thing in the movie. And but it's one of those you don't know, and then it was like, oh, that's cool. Anyways, transition. I watch a lot of weird stuff. So he goes and walks around, and he's finding that everybody is not alive.
Everyone's donezo.
At first, it's like, maybe they're passed out. No, they are dead.
No, they're dead. Ski.
Very dead.
That's Bill.
That is
But-
probably one of my favorite cold opens for the show.
Absolutely.
It was a good one.
Well, I love the soundtrack. The way when he steps out, everything kind of cuts out. All the music, everything, and
I
it's
didn't
just,
even notice.
It's just silence, and he just looks out across this landscape of just corpses.
Yep.
I thought that was one of the really more kind of jarring, affecting moments of the season.
Well, it's very alone, a very great sense of solitude.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's all by himself. And he goes around, but why? Yeah, why is it not him? And then we get Houdini and Doyle greeting each other with their humorous banter as always. Like, I haven't seen you in a while. How's it going? How's it going? And tease, tease, tease.
I ran out of paper. Yeah.
That was really good. How's the book coming along? I ran out of paper. That was hilarious. I liked it. That one. That was a good joke. Then Stratton says she met with, is it Woodbridge?
Walbridge.
Walbridge. I was like, words. And then I like Doyle's like, no, you can't do that. It's too dangerous. Such an overprotective brother.
Rich, and if you've learned anything over the course of however long you've been spending with each other, you know that saying that is not going to do a damn thing.
Not going to stop her at all. No way. And then, but it's weird because she said I got a little confused because first I felt she lied and said no one showed, but then they had the flashbacks, and then she's telling the truth, and then they say it's too dangerous. So did she say no one showed, or was it?
I don't think she was lying. I think she went to meet with a Walbridge, and then.
Oh, okay. They're saying that person didn't show,
Yeah.
but then she revealed that her husband was still alive.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That made more sense because at first I'm like, wait, how can you be lying and then you just tell them the truth? That didn't make sense. But that makes more sense.
Yeah, because it seemed a little weird the way that all came
way they
together.
said it,
Yeah,
yeah.
Sure.
And then like her kind of like awful like poker face where she's just kind of like
Yeah.
like those are the two people you got to have your A game on for
Yeah.
poker facing because it looks like you're
yeah.
pick up every little detail.
Houdini's totally like, you're lying, biatch.
Yeah.
I totally know you are. And then tells them the truth, and they both, Houdini and Doyle, are like, okay, that is way too dangerous. Yeah, as if she'll listen to them. And then she's like, there will always be other cases, which is interesting because she seems so gung-ho about solving cases, and now she's like deflated and be like, there's always gonna be another case.
Well, I think what she meant was like there's always going to be something that seems pressing, but like
Yeah.
this is a much bigger
Yeah.
arc that at least I should be focusing on.
Yeah. But how do you get her attention? Well, Doyle's like, well, 47 people
and
died.
I feel like that was like a moment that was like really unintentionally funny.
It was.
Like, I don't think it was, obviously wasn't meant to play
Yeah.
like be played for laughs, but just like there's always gonna be something that seems bigger. 47 people dead, and just like
Decisions.
like really all that
She's
was
like-
missing was just like ooh.
Well, but also like the setup for the two is because Doyle's like, oh, I was just conferring with these officers in Ontario, I believe it was. It's like,
Yeah.
what, so Doyle, you're just now just hanging out
Oh,
with cops and like
no,
picking
no.
up cases?
He had the newspaper.
Yeah, the newspaper.
He's
He
like,
did have the newspaper.
47 people died. And I was like,
He
newspaper's
did
back.
have, yep, he did have that newspaper.
So our trio goes to the town. It's quarantined. And they're kind of waiting for the feds and specialists, which at first I thought our team was going to be like, we're the specialists. Like,
No, they're just sending real cops.
real cops. And then, hold on. I was like looking at my camera. I'm like, there. I felt like I was too tall to my camera, guys. It's magic. Our chairs move. So then I like that the cops like, it was the natives. And I like Houdini's immediate response. Well, you're a bigot.
Right,
Yes.
exactly. I do love, I love I feel like that's the most identifying characteristic of Houdini, at least this iteration of Houdini, is that he's so like just not necessarily impulsive, but he'll tell you straight up.
Oh, blunt to a
yeah,
fault almost.
exactly, yeah.
I like that because that's what I do a lot. I'm not quite as verbal diarrhea that he has, but I'll be like, well, hey, this is how it is. But that's what I like about him. But at least we know what he's thinking.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And I do like that they're seriously considering that it was an act of God. Like that's like a serious like that's right in there with any other plausible.
Yes. I like that he points it out to Stratton. He's like, really? I didn't think
smarter
you were
than
that
this.
gullible.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes. And then, but we have Doyle kind of like, hey, no, we gotta solve this because what if it spreads? And then I like that Doyle gives Stratton the gloves, and she's like, I feel so much safer.
Yep. This isn't gonna really.
It's a little better, but still.
Right. But as they.
But they're still going in the town.
Sure, but as they find out, there's no sign of trauma, no sign of running, so clearly, like, gloves wouldn't have helped these 47 people.
Did you guys have any guess that it was what it was at all?
No,
This was a good one of like, it makes absolute sense when you find out, but in the meanwhile, you're not even a thing. And then, no trauma, so it's like, why'd they die? Why's the pastor survived? And the priest is kind of like, why me? Why have I been spared? And then he said he fell asleep working on the bell, and they were like, well, that's a window of 6 hours, and they're all being all scientific about it.
Oh, maybe that's why his fingers were dirty, because he was like,
I thought
just
cleaning, working on it.
Yeah.
And he's like, I don't want to leave. I'm going to abandon them, which is sad and noble at the same time. You're like, oh, your people, his flock. He doesn't want to leave his flock.
Right.
And then I like Houdini, and then Houdini being blunt again to Stratton. So you don't trust your husband. Like, out of nowhere. Her response to one other thing, he's like, so.
About that husband.
And then Doyle goes, hey, wait, guys, I found some dead rats. And so it's not just the people. And then at the doctor's house, when they found the dead dog, that was sad.
Yeah.
Right.
I was like, who cares about the rats and the people? Yeah, that's kind of sad. But the dog.
Well, and this was kind of something, when they're questioning Farley, he says that he's got this fear of the flu, so he drinks nothing but boiled coffee.
Yeah.
Which was, that's not something that I knew was a thing.
Because isn't all coffee boiled? In the sense, because you need hot water.
It was.
That's kind of.
And in the time period, like and even now, like if you're gonna drink stream water that's not clear or clean, you would boil it for your safety. So I don't know.
Right.
Well, coffee could flush out your system in more ways than one. So maybe that's for him of like clearing any bad stuff out.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's a good one. I'd never heard of that too. So they go to Dr. Millett's house, and the doctor had one patient, a little girl, and she never left. And did you guys think she was alive? I was all, she's alive.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
That was such a classic jump scare. Like, and touch. Ha!
When did you think she was alive? Like immediately?
The second we saw her in the bed. Yeah. The second we saw her, I was like, oh, she's definitely. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Not the least of which because, I don't think. I don't know. I guess the show has gone there, but I felt like this show wouldn't go there, showing a dead child in their bed.
Be surprised.
Right.
They are dead.
That's just a classic. Yeah, that would have been the bigger surprise.
Yeah. And apparently she's been out for 3 days, so she's like, I don't know what's been going on. Dude, those eyes. Her eyes were like giant blue saucers.
Yeah.
And then poor girl gets to find out everybody's dead, which that sucks. Like your entire village, your town,
right?
Everybody.
Not just the doctor, not just your parents, like damn near 50 people, pretty much your entire surrounding circle.
That sucks. And so then Doyle finds out she probably has Addison's disease, which becomes important later. So the show did a good job in this episode of dropping little things that are important, but in a good way that you don't think that's important.
Well, and dropping a lot of red herrings at the same time.
It's a little bit of everything, because in shows when they do someone picks something up and they do the close up of it, and there's no need to do it.
Sure.
And you're like, well, now I know that's important.
Right.
It's like, you need to show me, but not have it be like,
ding,
hey,
ding,
guys,
ding, ding, ding.
Right. Yeah.
Did you see?
We don't need the flashing neon
sign.
signs. Yeah.
Which, another side tangent. There's an anime that kind of does that, and they joke about it. There's a girl who's gonna back up. There you go. Major points if you guys can list what it is. If you've seen it in the comments or Twitter. So a girl is backing up, which in a way that's a spoiler, but still, she's backing up to a pillar that has a expensive vase, and they have an arrow going, and she bumps it and it falls.
Awesome.
Yes, it's really funny.
I like it.
I'll tell you guys about the show after. All right, so what do the survivors have in common? Nothing we know yet, but wait, maybe the water supply. That's a good guess.
Sure.
What's something everybody consumes?
If I wasn't able to see the time bar of the episode, I would have completely bought it.
Then you're like, well, we still got a lot more time.
It's far too early in the episode for us to be solving the mystery.
Yes. That'd be kind of boring. It'd be like, the episode's over.
Right, exactly.
So that's season finale.
Right. Well,
Yep. And then we find out, oh, well, maybe it's the broth and boiled coffee, so maybe boiling
Right, because
is
Libby,
safe and not.
Libby, when she was pretty much living off of broth. We know that Reverend Farley was drinking only coffee, so
Yep.
the similarity of the boiled water.
But then they go to the water, and I like that. I don't know if you can smell it, I guess, but when Doyle does the water, like the
smell the
vial of
acidity?
it
Right.
smells acidic and which means it's toxic. But I mean, I guess there are certain smells. I've had it where you can smell it. It smells It smells like a chemical. So I wonder what does acidic smell like per se?
I would have no idea.
Good question. And then another good question. Well, what about everybody downriver? Good question. So they all go check, of course. And the town, I like how they kind of go, well, maybe it's empty. And then the kids show up and people, and you're like, oh, okay.
Right.
And it's the natives. And what do you guys think of Walt calling Houdini? You're that guy who breaks out of white prisons.
Yes, that was great.
And of course, Houdini's just happy to have a reputation
Yes.
anywhere he goes.
And it's interesting because then that qualifies him as not necessarily being white. Because if you were white, breaking out of white prisons, it wouldn't necessarily be a big deal. But you break out of white, like as in it's a separate thing. So I thought that was interesting. But that could be also why he maybe connected with him a little bit better, because it's like, well, you're not necessarily the white man. Maybe. I don't know. Did you guys notice that? Because I felt it's an interesting wording choice because it makes him other than the group.
I don't know. I don't know if that was the intention.
It might not be, but that's the way I hear it.
Right.
I like that as well.
Right.
You're just like, But yeah, Jailbreak. I got an Indian name.
I like that. I did like that a lot. Yeah.
It's a cute nickname, though.
Yeah.
So the trio wants to stay, and the constable guy is like, nuh-uh, because he obviously does not get along with the locals. And of course, the locals are like, you guys can stay. You're fine. You're a jerk. Like, go away, you a-hole. So LaPier apparently is justice. For what? Because Mother Earth did it. Okay. So it's revenge for killing all the natives. Sure, that kind of makes cultural sense that if you're that person who suffered all these injustices and people suddenly die, you kind of be like, karma's a bitch, eh?
Yeah, the prospector's coming around. He relocates everyone so he
Yep.
can get all the copper.
Then I kind of wonder if it was mineral poisoning. Like copper poisoning or, some kind of, well, it's not lead, but like something like that.
Right.
Which they didn't go there, but that was my other thought.
But I like it because he drinks it, and much like we've seen it several times, Houdini kind of spiking or not spiking something. He's like, well, I'll drink it, and if it's if I
That is
live,
kind of a theme that keeps popping
Yes.
up.
if I live, we know it's God's will. If I die, then we know it's minerals. I'm like, oh, okay, sure.
And then Stratton, the woman, has to be like, well, what about the children who died? Which actually, I would think almost Doyle would say that because he has kids, but we got to have the lady do it. So she's like, what about the children died? And he's like, well, our children died too. So you're like,
So they
touche.
cancel each other out.
Yeah.
Touche. Good point. And his name isn't Walt. It's just his white way of saying his name. Which actually...
Watabakanai was his Indian name.
Thank you for writing that down. His Native American name.
His Native American name.
I'm also on Dead of Summer, and that one they had a Russian character reveal on one of the episodes. And they're like, you need to make an American name so you can blend in better.
Right.
This one, he just did it because he's like, tired of y'all messing up my name.
Right,
Just
just goes
say
by
this.
Walt.
Yeah. And then I like his thing to, what do you guys think of, to Doyle? You're Sherlock's father.
Yeah.
This guy, he really knows his...
He's like, I know who y'all are.
Right, he knows Houdini and Sherlock and...
But, and then he's kind of like, well, and he's like, well, you made him and you killed him within that same sphere of time, so you are like his parent.
Right.
That was a cool way to phrase it.
And there is, that recurring theme that keeps popping up that, everything is live.
Yep. And then Houdini and Walt, and they're having the chat about dreams, and can you tell the difference? And he was just saying it's all the same, which is really interesting.
Right.
When do you guys dream?
Sometimes, yeah.
Cool. Yeah, me too. Sometimes. Do you guys dream? Leave comments of how much do you remember? I'm curious because some people don't. Like they're like, well, they say everybody does, but you don't remember.
Exactly.
them.
Yeah. I think I only really have dreams that I remember maybe every 2 or 3 weeks, something like that. Not terribly often.
Yeah, I haven't noticed any like triggers of why I did or didn't. I used to have a more vivid, more epic adventure dreams, and now they're not as much as that, or at least I'm just so tired that I'm like.
Because you're leading an epic life now. You don't need to retreat to your dreams, Kari.
Thank you. Or they're more just like weird versions of things that are already happening in real life.
Right, exactly.
And then I've had bad nightmares that you wake up and you're like, okay, I don't want to go back to sleep. That was weird. But we think Houdini's maybe dreaming with his mom thing, which is interesting, which we'll get to that. And then Houdini, I like that they have their little reading montage. What do you guys think of
It was
that?
interesting.
Well, and not like and even further than that, every book with its own inscription and
Yeah, we got Houdini reading about dreams. Doyle reading Sherlock with his note from Tui, right? That's what I thought. It was one of those that went too fast. I was like, I was just like reading that part. And then we got Stratton with Tom Sawyer. Next morning we got Houdini and Doyle, and he's like, well, you can't read in your dreams, so it's a test, which I guess.
right.
I mean, I don't think I've actively tried,
Right.
so I don't know.
I feel like that's not. I mean, it's like I can't. I feel like I've read in my dreams before, or at least a sign or something.
I feel like I was thinking that. I feel like someone has. I don't know if I necessarily have, but I mean,
Like, it's not a guaranteed thing.
exactly. Yeah, it's not like a set rule. Like, oh,
Yeah.
you can't look at letters. You know, you can't look at words in your dreams.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, there must be some sort of signage in some dreams.
Although a show this smart, I feel like there must be some rationale behind that. 'Cause I feel like they wouldn't drop such a prominent thing if it wasn't based at least.
I'm
in
sure it was
some-
said at some point.
Maybe
yeah.
not actively read. Understand, like, reading a sign is a little different too, is depending on how it is, you just almost just visually process that information. But reading out a structured sentence,
Right.
Yeah.
maybe. It's a good question. I was gonna say, I feel there's a lot of movies that have done the what test do you give to yourself to find out if you're
Right.
asleep or not.
Well, and I mean, yeah, and that's a whole other like story. Is if you have enough control to be able to take out an object, to be able to be cognizant enough and aware enough in the moment to be able to say, like, okay, in this dream I'm wearing a suit jacket. In this suit jacket there's a pocket. In that pocket there's this message. In this message I wrote these specific words
Yes.
that make me think this specific thought. I can feel like that's a lot of forethought
Oh yeah.
to be writing on dreams where you could just be like running from a giant crab monster.
Yeah, I know. It's one of those like, well, that's detail.
Right. I mean, maybe if you're like a lucid dreamer, sure, but
Yeah, maybe it depends what kind. Or yeah, mine are more just like weird snippets that you remember the more. And then the
Exactly.
more you think about it, the more they like kind of go away.
much more akin to like a David Lynch film.
Yep. And then, and then it's just they have their nice little discussion about proof of like, well, Doyle's like, so if you saw your mom right now, would you accept it? And he's like, no, because it means I'm going crazy. And you're like,
What else would he say?
yeah, no, it makes sense. But Doyle's like, you serious, man?
Yeah.
No, because it feels like you're just arguing with somebody that will just not at least entertain the notion. They won't.
Yeah.
They won't play
No.
the hypothetical game with you at all. It's like, no, I won't. Even, why even be hypothetical? 'Cause
But
we
yeah,
just
I
know
mean,
it's not true.
I could see him sticking to that, because if you were to see someone and it was that real and that indistinguishable from reality, that they were standing right in front of you, even though you knew they died, you would think you're going crazy.
It's true. But then that's the other category too of not necessarily a sister or a twin to being awake or not, if you know you're insane or not. Because there's plenty of the ones like, I think I'm going crazy. It's like, well, how do you know if
would
you're
you
actually
know?
going
Yeah.
crazy?
In fact, that's kind of like what Elliot said in the first episode of The Magicians.
It's like, how do you know you're crazy?
Right.
Yep. Other great show, which they're filming season 2.
Woo.
Drop on that one. We're ready for that. And then we have apparently there is a cipher in the newspaper and the Tom Sawyer book. Go Stratton for figuring that one out like right away. And she's like, hey guys, there's a thing. And she's the one who solved it, which I thought that was cool.
Yeah.
Super.
Suck on that, Doyle.
There's cryptography everywhere.
Apparently, yes. And there's 3 more deaths upriver, but it's the same, but why only 3? They don't really know.
Hey, the one thing about like solving that cipher too is because she says we should head back to England right now and
Yeah.
take care of it. And, like that took like at least 6 days to get there, and it's supposed to be something supposed to be going down in 2 days. Why would you try getting
Right.
back?
Yeah,
Just
right,
We're gonna leave.
Telegraphing makes so much more sense, and she's so
Yes.
reluctant to embrace
That's a
that
good
notion.
point. Nobody really brought that up. Be like, we're not gonna make it down.
Yeah.
And then we find out the valley is called the
Mikoyu. Yeah.
I wasn't gonna have trouble reading it. I like it.
Well,
Jinx.
you don't usually write down the proper names.
Well, that one I did. Which technically, well, I guess I wrote that one down. We were talking about language stuff earlier. That one you could write in Japanese. That I'm like, that one I could phonetically spell out. Anyway, so it's the Bloodstained Valley. And I like that Doyle uses that word of like getting everybody out. Well, like, you need to evacuate the town. No,
And like
I
the
don't
way
want
he
to.
says it is
And
like
he's like, no.
he
believes in it.
It's very Liam Neeson the way he says that
Oh.
line, like going right into the break.
Yeah.
You need to get them out of the Mikoyu.
I just thought it was interesting. It just shows his character, like, he believes, you know, he's so ready to believe, like, the philosophy of the Native American
Well, yeah,
people.
up until this point, he's, as far as he's concerned, he's been given so much what he sees as proof. Like, this is clearly what's happening.
Yes.
Like, whatever is happening, it's the people in this valley that are dying. So whatever it is, whether it's real or not, we need to get them out of there.
Yep. And then actually back to the cipher, went a little ahead and then came back. They feel it's going to kill it means it's going to kill the England. Somebody's going to kill King of England. There we go. And then Stratton thinks they should go back, but yeah, as Frank pointed out, you won't make it in time.
I don't know why she was like, we can do it, guys. We have to do it.
We'll make it. We'll be a faster ship. I don't
Really?
know.
Oh, okay.
And
Sure.
Houdini's like, well, the king can be replaced. And it's like, oh, ouch, but true.
I mean, yeah, he's not wrong.
Isn't there somebody else who can take over in case?
Even Doyle kind of has to come to grips with the fact that it's like, okay, the life of one prominent figure versus the life of a ton of, you know, common folk, basically.
Exactly. And Doyle agrees with him. And again, Houdini just bluntly says, I don't trust your husband. Because they're like, something's going down. And then later that night, Benjamin comes to Stratton's room. What? Did you guys think that was a dream?
No, I didn't think it was a dream at first.
It was around this time that I couldn't really tell what was what anymore.
I think that's the point of this
Right,
episode.
exactly.
Yeah, because me too. I'm like, I thought it was real, 100%. Because I'm like, that makes sense. And it's like, how'd you know I was here? Well, I had someone following you. Okay, makes sense. And he's been trying to warn her.
That's fair enough.
Yeah, it's one of those like, okay, sure. And he says he's trying to stop the plot against the king. Assassination, and of course she bluntly says it to him because they were like, don't tell him because that's gonna like lead on that we know,
right?
And of course she tells him right away.
Right.
Yeah.
Come on, sweetheart.
Which we'll get to this, but Doyle does even worse later on.
Okay.
We'll get to that part.
All right.
Although I felt like the way they set it up, I mean, and we're talking about the dream, so we realize that it is, and it's like the whole reveal. Well, we'll get to it. I'll tell you my beef with the scene when I think about it.
Cool.
Yes.
And then we got Houdini walking around, a woman's following him, and he just stops and grabs her. Oh, wait, it's his mom. Which, why did she come to him as a young woman?
Dan and I were talking about this earlier, too. It's like, if your mom came to you as a young version, would you
even recognize her?
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, nowadays, it might be a little bit easier if you have a lot of photos, because she's so young. Because there's a difference between, like, your mom when you were a child to mom now, to be long before you're born. Like, that's her as like a 20-something compared to like, what, 60 when she died, maybe?
Right.
So that's a big difference. But then there's that creepy face switch.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but that
Right.
grossed me out.
That was weird. That was super weird.
Yeah, and I don't know what the reason was to have her be young. Why not just have her be the mom the whole time? It seemed weird to do that kind of.
Well, because then I feel like
could follow more.
If it was old mom right before she died, the one that was following him, like we would know instantly who it was.
Yeah, I just felt like I don't know what this like.
But I like-
got you.
I think that's all that it was just to like keep us from knowing exactly who it was.
Yeah.
But I like that a lot of people on YouTube commented right away, like, it's the young version of his mom. So you guys were smart and figured that out. They're like, it's his mom as a young version. Nobody really knew why, but I agree. Yeah, if we knew it was his mom right away, you'd be like, well, it's his mom.
Hey, what are you doing? What are you doing hanging around the cemetery, Mom?
I'm just a dum-dum.
Yep. Oh. And then he tries to read, but he can't really. Then words are like, well, or
It's like the show's version of like the spinning top in Inception.
Yeah.
That's
but
how we
this
know.
one was not. It was kind of in between though, because he kind of could, but kind of couldn't. It was like there were words, but I guess he couldn't read the words.
Right.
Also, the problem is if you write the same phrase every time, you almost can't read it because your brain already knows what you're reading. Like you'd almost have to write a new phrase every time.
Right, but it's not necessarily can you process what you wrote. It's can you literally see and make out the letters that you wrote.
But I mean, again, if you already know what they are.
Right, but I mean, even if you know what something's going to say, like you still know if you can read the letters or not.
You'd have to go by word, like you'd have to go like word by word and not necessarily read it, but just sound it out loud, like breaking it down. And then Stratton also has the same problem because she looks over at her book and their stuff. But I didn't think she was in that conversation.
My issue with this scene is like one, she wasn't in that conversation, but then two, at the beginning of her dream, she's reading the book when she gets a knock on the door.
When she's in bed.
Yeah.
So like,
that's a good point. That's a really good point.
How could she be reading this book and not having that same kind of inclination?
Interesting. Yeah.
That's a good one. I didn't think of that. I just thought she wasn't there when Doyle and Houdini talked about the
No,
book.
but I think
reading.
I think that was again like just for us to know.
Yeah. Well, it could be she doesn't know what it means.
Right. Exactly.
It just showed that she goes, "Oh, that's weird."
Right. These these letters are dancing around.
Yeah. And then Stratton notices some of the birds are alive, which it was cute that they were lovebirds kind of a thing. Like, oh, little doves, or what kind were they? I don't think
Might
they
have been pigeons.
Buzzards.
No. Because they're not pigeons. They're like a prettier, nicer ones. Anyway. And then she goes, wait, it's carbon dioxide. And then Doyle's like, well, enough can be deadly, which is, it is a lame way to die.
Mm-hmm. And because it's heavier than air, so that's why we saw the mice die and the dog die.
Anything down low if you were sleeping and laying down.
Mm-hmm.
But it had a blast go through the town, which I talked about. Mm-hmm. They felt that the girl with her Addison's disease had a tolerance, essentially, because then she could handle a higher CO2
right
level.
Yeah, the Addison's
CO2.
led to alkalosis, which is a
you.
carbon dioxide deficiency.
That one I didn't write down. And the priest was above it, so it didn't matter. And so they go to the mine, and the mine is totally leaking carbon dioxide, but it's okay. It's only a foot above the ground. I like that they go right to it, and nobody's like...
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Nobody, for our
As long as
listeners,
you just
covering your
stand
mouth
super
and
straight
your...
Yeah, and Doyle gets
Don't
really
kneel
close
down.
with that match, too.
Yes.
It's like, hold on.
Yeah. And then Stratton's like, Houdini and Doyle, you can't come with me because it's too dangerous because I couldn't stand anything happening to you. Aww. I know something about that was one of those like, I know she means well, but somehow it was cheesy.
Oh, sure.
You're like, of course they're going to go with you, sweetheart. There's no way that they're going to stop. And then I thought it was interesting at this point. I'm like, we still have a lot more in the episode to go.
Yeah, right.
I was glad they went on more because you're like, because they could have left it.
Yeah,
they
we've pretty much
been
like, okay,
well,
we've solved the mystery of the week.
and that could have been it. And we got Houdini and Walt's kind of having their final farewells. And he's like, I've lost my mother and it's killing me. And Walt's like, well, she's not lost. She is home and there's no before or after, which was a nice way to look at the afterlife, that you're always present. It's very non-linear time idea that it's all just kind of one. It's the circle of life.
Yeah, and this is like a philosophy or point of view that Houdini does not try to debunk or...
Yeah, he just takes it.
Well, and I really kind of liked that moment where he just opens up to him kind of out of nowhere. He just says, look, I just lost my mom. I'm really struggling with it. And just kind of, there's this real genuine moment of vulnerability in this real conversation. He doesn't really have many of those with people.
Yeah. Well, I kind of noticed, and I kind of felt that Houdini in this felt he could open up because he understood that the Native American people had a different view of the world and how it worked. So he almost, because he seemed to almost have that curiosity, like talking about dreams. So what do you think about dreams? Because he didn't talk to anybody else about that. But he felt that maybe these people would know more. And it's also a culture that talks a lot about your dreams and dream walking and all that. So makes sense.
Yeah.
But it was nice to see him open up.
Sure.
Be
Yeah,
vulnerable.
Yeah, because I feel like we've seen Doyle do that a little bit, but I don't feel like we've seen Houdini kind of open up.
Nah.
Right.
So it was nice to kind of get a little inside him.
And then he's going to leave, and we get our nice little bit of supernaturalness that's not explained. So that was cool. And Walt goes, say hello to the president. Your mother said, say hello to the president. And Houdini's like, okay, that's weird. And they don't explain it. And I like that because it was one of those like,
well, and
how did he know?
He says that your mother says he'll be coming to Buffalo tomorrow.
And how would the guy know, like, this is the where he knows or not. How would Walt know anything about what they're doing or the assassination attempt? There's no way. So it is one of those, like, how'd you know? And we don't find out, which is good. That was a nice one where they leave it, but they don't.
Right.
But he doesn't try to be like, how did you know?
No, we've talked about that device being used where it's like everything has an explanation except for this one thing.
That was kind of one of the one things. And kind of seeing his mom, which we'll get to that too. Seeing her again, rather. Then Houdini goes, wait, it's not the King of England, it's the president, because he's staying at the King Edward
Hotel.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks to the newspaper.
Yes. Again,
once again.
newspaper.
Yes. And if you saw the way the shot was in the back, you saw the window and you saw the paper boy. He was biking away.
I thought
He's a very important harbinger.
Did you guys notice, and what did you think of Stratton's reaction? She almost looked disappointed. I thought she looked surprised and disappointed that it's the president.
I don't think I
Like, her expression was like, really?
I didn't catch that at all.
That's it? No.
Yeah, like King of England. We have to go back right away, guys. It's the end of the world. It's just the president of the United States.
All right.
Because she had that. It's the president of the United States.
I definitely didn't see that.
Go back and watch it if you feel like it.
Well, I felt like that face was more like a dread. Like, this is a much more immediate.
I don't know. It didn't have any sense of urgency to me. It just really was like
I definitely didn't read disappointment in that.
Disappointed. And then we meet Agent Branowski.
Branowski?
Branowski? Now, yeah, I wrote it now. Okay, Branowski. And he's like, yeah, you guys, well, we won't take any like false warnings. And I like that Stratton shows up and she's like, I am Scotland Yard and I can verify this information. BS, but that passed.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, like,
they have a sense of urgency.
and like she definitely, obviously, has that sense of urgency. But like, why would he believe that?
Because there's no identification.
Especially after we've just spent an entire season of someone going, a woman in Scotland Yard.
Well, in America, apparently it's not that weird.
America would have been even weirder.
That's true, because he didn't even bat an eye. He was like,
well,
you're a female.
All right, then I'll just bring him.
Yeah,
like,
just
why
Houdini.
is her word automatically golden?
Yeah. But Houdini makes a good point. Well, if we're wrong, you just kind of look like a fool. But if, we're right, you're going to save this guy's life.
Which even then, I'm like, if they're like, if he's wrong to believe them, like, they could have had every intention of killing the president.
They could be the guy.
Like,
yeah.
Him looking like a fool is not the worst case scenario here.
But that is also a case that's nice when you have two worldly public figures recognizable, like, saying this. So they aren't just random Joe Schmoes. It's like, maybe that's why he's like, all right, Harry. And he's also an American. He brought the American up, not the Brit.
Right.
And then Stratton and Doyle are like, well, we'll look around the lobby.
And I love this part of the episode, might have been my favorite, because like every single person that I feel like Stratton encountered, and I think Doyle too, was like insanely shady. Yeah. Like cartoonishly, like almost like twirling their mustache shady. Like there was someone that gave a look to Stratton where it was just like the most ominous narrowing of eyes.
And he had the most Weasley face too.
Right,
it's like,
exactly.
All right, great.
But if you're looking for trouble, is it like you're going to see it everywhere?
But
yeah,
even the one that Doyle sees, where he's just like,
that's what I thought.
He's just like,
and I'm
wow,
like, wouldn't
right.
you guys know if there are people here hell bent on assassinating the president, they would look a little bit more nonchalant?
No, they would have the newspaper and be like,
right. Everyone was just so like, I got a huge
but I
kick
like
out of it.
that he was the solicitor, like.
But do you think, like, even as a solicitor, don't you want to be a little bit more on the down low for your job? But no.
He's like, he's so
And
nervous.
served with a subpoena.
Maybe it's his first one.
Right, exactly. See,
He's
now
like, I found you.
we just need a spin-off about that guy.
That's right, because there's somebody else there evaluating him. Like, I noticed you looked a little Weasley when you did that. You got to calm down on that, Jeremy. All right.
You gotta take it down a notch.
He's in training.
You're supposed to blend in.
I actually had a friend who did do that for a little bit.
Serve
Really?
people like papers and stuff?
Did they enjoy it, or was it just...
No. That's why they didn't do it
doesn't
that
seem
long.
fun.
I think, I would worry about my safety because they will definitely kill the messenger
Oh,
kind
sure.
of attitude. They're not going to have the, oh yeah, you're just a messenger.
That's the whole point. You're trying to
Yeah.
trick people
Yeah.
into accepting these papers.
And then I like that Stratton goes, she thinks she sees her Benjamin, but loses him in the crowd. But then suddenly Doyle meets him. I was like, that was random.
This was the moment that I was talking about where Doyle like practically goes like, here to stop the assassination, right? That's why we're here. We're all here for the same reason, right,
Yes.
guys? Like, all right, man. Like,
Yeah, it's like,
don't
wait.
show all your cards.
Yeah. Well, apparently he wasn't on the same level as Houdini going, we're not telling that guy anything.
Right. Because, yeah, he was also like, oh, we work with your wife.
Yeah.
We know who you are. We know you're alive.
We know you're like a secret agent.
Right. Like,
Yeah,
even
Doyle,
if you think this guy's on the right
no coolness
side.
in this
No
segment.
chill. No chill.
And
It's
he,
like,
what the
hi,
Ben was
guys.
all too is like, yes, like
Right.
nice pregnant pause there, Ben. Way to play that off too.
Yeah, he's like, sure.
Yeah, this is definitely where the episode picked
Smiling
up for
on.
me.
Okay. Yeah, that was pretty bad on both their parts. That's what I said. Awkward. And then he has the book, which indicates he does the decoding. and gets the deciphering. I didn't know. I kind of felt that must be the reason why they go, well, that means it's bad because you have the code, you have the book, you got a own copy because we have your copy. So you went out and got a new one so that you could find the secret message.
Right,
so
exactly.
I guess that implied his guilt. And then, there's a gun. And then they struggle and Doyle gets shot.
And I can see what Doyle's doing there, but I was like, Houdini's, well, he's just going to get the, really famous bodyguard there. It's like that was, so he was just going to walk with him? Like, what was Houdini going to do?
Right.
I don't understand his plan.
He's so good at reading people, he would spot the person ahead of time.
Right.
Apparently, Houdini should have been in the lobby. He would have found Benjamin way faster and been like, Benjamin, you have guilt written all over your face. But no, he's like, I'm going to protect him and dive over him when I will essentially save my life. I don't know. Because he can dodge bullets. That's his magic ability.
I definitely thought we were going to get that scene of Houdini taking a bullet for Doyle. I thought we were going to see that.
Oh, yeah, but no. Doyle's shot. Everybody's like ducking around. Houdini's with the president. And then Benjamin gets shot from behind. Did you guys know who it was?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I was like, yes!
For sure.
Go Stratton. And then I like that she runs to Doyle first. I smiled. I said, I knew it was her. Smiley face. Runs to Doyle first. I'm like, yeah, you go, girl. Be like, stupid husband. And then she goes back over to him. And Benjamin, he's like, I was trying to stop you. I was trying to warn you. And she's like, you killed people.
Why couldn't you just let me keep killing famous people?
And he's like, I freed people, which I don't really understand that.
Right. I don't think we got much elaboration on that
get
front.
That one.
No. Well, I
guess...
guess...
like, what? I'd almost want her to be like, what do you mean by that?
Right, right.
And then, if there's one thing you can believe that I loved you. She's like, fine, I believe. Die.
Right. Now I can die.
Maybe she'll have her closure now, because now she'll be like, Doyle passes out, and it's like, Houdini's like, come on, man. Like, and then he passes out. He's like, come on, cops, do something. Who is excited about the Sherlock vision?
I'm super pumped about this.
Oh my gosh.
Super pumped.
Sherlock vision. OMG! Exclamation point. I was like, that was so cool. Because didn't we say we wanted to see Sherlock in the show somehow?
Yeah.
That's how they did it.
The perfect way,
Perfect way.
But I like that he walked in and then immediately he throws away the hat and the pipe. Okay.
Those aren't the real things. Yes. But I like his other point of all the people you could choose and think of, you chose me. But that kind of makes sense of like, that's how he works it all out. And he's on the verge of dying. You can go back. Oh, wait, you are thinking about Tui. Oh,
I love that moment. He starts, like Sherlock starts analyzing Doyle.
Yes.
I love that moment.
It's like, okay. You're analyzing yourself through your character in your own brain.
Right, the pulse and the heart rate and the hand twitch,
Which Doyle had 2 visionary episodes in this show. Because when he was in the insane asylum, he also had that as well. But he saw Tui then, but she was fake. Like, she was not the real Tui. So in this one, he gets Sherlock, which is interesting.
And the real Sherlock.
Yes, the real Sherlock. Not a cosplayer.
Not like the cosplay guy.
Yes.
I wish we could see that guy again.
Maybe for season 2, if they get season 2 on another network. Then we jump ahead in time a little bit. Stratton's on a boat, and she tosses the book into the ocean. That is her letting go of Benjamin. And Doyle's okay, because did you guys think he was dead?
No.
I didn't think he was dead either. I'm like, no, they can't kill him, because that is definitely going against history of like.
I mean, it could have. There was a part of my brain that was like, are they going to go in sort of like an Inglourious Bastards type of direction, where they just completely rewrite history? Yeah.
He's okay, and then they're all still kind of joking around, which that was pretty funny. Like, hurts when he pees. I told you that in private. Of course, they are definitely like brothers of like banter.
But it's like, I won't tell you about like how I feel about my wife or my mother dying. It's like, but I'll tell you that it hurts when I pee. I feel that comfortable. I can open to you about that.
Stuff.
Yes, exactly. Of course. And then they kind of ask her, what does she want to do? What's she going to do with her life? And she's like, I want to stay at Scotland Yard. There's other people that need help, which I was like, that's nice. And I think after she's done it, she's good at it. It's not like she's bad at her job.
Sure. And I think, like you said, I think, now that she's had this closure, I think she's free. She says people need their answers. And so that's her calling.
Yes. And then Doyle gets a telegram. The specialist that Houdini recommended is wanting to treat Tui. Which, again, we have all kinds of issues with that.
Yeah.
Like,
oh, yeah.
again, I'm sorry. I still feel there's no way she could be alive without eating and stuff. But whatever. But there's a guy, the Telegram guy, has a nice little badge that has Baskerville, and then he writes the Hound of Baskerville. So that's interesting. That I don't know my Sherlock book timeline, and I actually do have a. There is a really great audio cassette from, I want to say it's like the 50s, because Oscar Wilde is one of the he plays the voice of Moriarty. Oh, cool. And they do a radio drama of Sherlock Holmes, like walk, 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 open doors, and Watson and Sherlock, and they have people come in, and they even have it. How's it going? I'm coming up to the room, and so my voice is far away and comes closer.
Sure.
But I've listened to those, so I'm like, I don't know my timeline of when those stories came out. So it's interesting that, is that when he did go over the falls, and then surprise, Sherlock is alive. We don't really explain why, and then the Hound of Baskerville. So that'd be something to look up. Maybe I'll go look that up, and I'll tweet about that on Twitter. Be like, what is our chronological order of what what the Sherlock stories are? 'Cause that's a good thing. Because I'm like, I thought that was the whole point, that in the Sherlock movies and shows, like, there's the over the waterfall, but he didn't really die. But just kidding. It's one of those, as an author, just kidding, guys.
Right.
And it wasn't a dream. He just somehow survived.
Yeah.
He hit the water just right, certain angle. He's a great swimmer. I don't know. Kind of one of those things. And then we get the weird, really weird part that has no answer, which is great because it is one of those, like, well, Houdini sees his mom again. He's sitting out on the deck, and he can read.
Yeah.
He pulls out the sheet, and he looks a bit concerned. So he probably thinks he's going crazy.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, we
was creeped out.
Well, we were talking about it off mic. I mean, his Houdini's sanity is really all he has. That's all he clings to, is his reason and his logic and his sanity. And he said if he saw his mother before him and he knew it wasn't a dream, he would think that he was going insane. And that was that moment of palpable fear on his face that the season ends with, is just like, am I losing it?
And she was kind of creepy too.
Oh, for sure.
Smiley like.
That was terrifying.
Hi.
That was absolutely terrifying.
But then even like in the second, when they cut back to her again, she has like more, it's not a smile look, she's more like a concerned look. It's like, that's how you're imagining your mom visiting. She's like,
It was no more of that father-mother like relationship of love.
No.
It is creepy.
Sure.
It's just like.
But yeah, the second you you saw him, you knew A, his mother was next to him.
Yes.
B, he was gonna be able to read the message.
Yes. It's like, oh gosh.
Now, do you feel, now knowing where the Stratton storyline ended, were you guys satisfied with this? I mean, because it was like the thing that ran throughout the whole season.
I was just going to bring up, that was your prediction, that you were like, we're not going to find anything out to the end, and lo and behold, we found out a little bit before the end, but it is resolved in the end. I like how it ended with the assassination, and then we learned he really was a bad guy. Because I think if we were just told he was a bad guy, that would be like hearsay. So it was nice to visually see him do it, and Stratton probably had to see him do something extreme.
Right.
That'd be the only way that she could. Because when she finds out you faked your death and blah, blah, she's still like, I still love you. But now it's like, oh, you were trying to kill the President of the United States and you shot my friend? I am totally going to kill you. Right. Oh, wait, we didn't really talk about that. What did you guys think of that line when she's like, I wish I could have said I did that out of like being a strong police officer. It was more like I hated that asshole.
I wasn't crazy about that. I was not crazy about that. Because that was more like, I felt like that was the whole point, that she was doing her duty as a police officer, and she was able to override her emotions. I felt like that line to me smacked more of like, oh, she wasn't a good police officer. She's just a hysterical woman that shot her crazy lying husband. Yeah. That's why I wasn't really crazy about it.
They could have maybe done a half and half. Be like, that was my duty. And I'm not torn up about it because he was a lying asshole. But I agree. That is kind of one of those like, well.
But I shot him first and foremost because he was a perpetrator that I knew was committing a heinous crime.
And he shot you. Right.
It's like, I think on the topic of this kind of whole arc, just in general, I think I felt satisfied at first, but the more I think about it, the more I'm like, from the beginning, once we found out her husband's alive, I feel like it's been really binary. It's been either 50-50, either he's a good guy or he's a bad guy. And I feel like both of them were kind of equally likely. Like, there was really no reason for us to actively think, like, there's no way he could be in on it. Like, I felt like that was pretty plausible even from the get-go. So I think the fact that it came around like, oh, okay, he was part of the group after all. Like, I don't think it took that far of a leap.
Yeah. What about you, Frank?
Yeah, I feel like once you saw him show back up at the hotel, it's like, no.
And he was never really that convincing altogether. Like, I feel like once we found out who was alive, that really pushed me, at least, in the direction of like, oh, there's definitely shady shit happening.
He looks like a shady guy. That's one of those things. That's the trouble with casting, or even in animation, when you have a character that either it's an actor you already know, or that person is already kind of shady looking or drawn shady looking, because then you're like, well, they're the bad guy. Like, you I don't know, it's maybe ingrained from childhood. You just look at these characters and you're like, well, regardless of any color, age, body type, there's just certain people that you're like, that one is the bad guy.
No.
Or bad lady. You're just like, you just know. There's no, then it's kind of nice when it's a surprise if you're like, well, actually they're not. Because you're like, well, okay. Well, that's the end of our show.
That's our season, guys.
Yes. So how do you guys feel at the end?
I feel good. I feel like I was telling Frank, I think this was probably my favorite episode of the season. I think it got really smart at some points and really, really silly at some points, and I liked both of those things. I feel like those two things, that dichotomy, is what I loved about this show since the beginning.
I feel like I wish they would have pushed it more, as even Ty was mentioned again, and we've talked about before, like the Inglourious Bastards route. More play with just an alternate take on history.
Right.
Because I feel like they kind of had their foot half in and out on that. I mean, they've played with some of the timeline with them a little bit, at least in terms of what we know with the reality. But I feel like they never really went all in or tried yet. So I feel like it was just kind of like this thing. I wish they would have made a stronger choice either way.
A little more historical fiction following along?
Yeah, a little bit.
Maybe because
take.
Well, I feel like they were maybe a little handcuffed by like, okay, this is what actually happened. This is when it happened. This is where it happened.
But you know, I've read some pretty good historical fiction books where they take big events you already know. I mean, this is hard because we know these characters, because generally with those books, you're a character that you've never heard of, so they can do whatever you want in that universe. But yeah, they maybe could have done a few more like paralleled with real things we already knew about.
Right, and I think that's why they had so much more freedom with Stratton, you know, with characters like that.
It's all surprise. We can do whatever we want.
Right, we can do whatever we want with this one. Yeah. But, because, yeah, I feel like kind of Inglourious Bastards, not to keep harping on it, but I feel like that was kind of one of the first ones that made it acceptable on a mainstream level to be like, okay, you know this was a real person that existed. Now you know this is a piece of fiction that, you know, that we can take creative license with. Yeah. But I think it's an interesting concept that's worth exploring, but I think they did as much as they could have while kind of still being... handcuffed by history. Yeah,
I think it was an excellent show. I love the humor. I love the historical fiction-ness. Costumes. Houdini was in his blue again.
Right.
Doyle wasn't really in his green.
In his green, no.
Not so much. And then we've had Stratton out of uniform for a while.
Because I felt like Doyle was a character that we saw through the season. He could see both sides.
Yeah.
And we saw him doing that, where he'd be very much a deductive reaning when he'd break something down, or he'd be willing to embrace, you know, more of the unknown and the supernatural aspects.
Right.
But I never saw we never saw Houdini really waver at all ever.
No.
He was so adamant in his point of view.
There was that one episode where they kind of did like a switch.
Oh, they had the switch.
But even then, I feel like that wasn't really a heartfelt switch for Houdini. Like deep down, he still knew that he was right.
Yeah.
Even if he was trying to play devil's advocate.
Yeah, and then Stratton was in the middle.
Right.
Because she definitely bordered that line of like,
well... And I think that was always kind of the point, is
but
like...
But then, does that balance out Houdini's hard line, this is the way it is, when you got two characters that are both sides, you know? Because then it's not too heavy-handed.
There wasn't really a hard line, like, no, the afterlife is definitely real kind of character.
So, definitely recommendable, worthy show. Very fun. I hope they get a season 2. We were just looking online and it looks like Fox is maybe not going to really be doing it. But who knows? Maybe another network could pick it up and continue it. Yeah. Because it was a cool show. Maybe it'll pick up legs after.
Right.
Because some shows do that. Like, they do pick.
Sure.
Because it's sad to end it on just... That's it.
No, and ITV, who's doing it in the UK, I mean, they still haven't announced if they're going to do a second season yet or not. So if they decide to do one, maybe they find somebody that would distribute it domestically as well.
Yeah,
sure,
that'd be great. Or you do some BBC America or BBC something. Because British shows do pretty well over here too. So
oh God, yes, yeah.
I wonder how different it would be if it was 100% like kind of a British-made show, and then air it here. That'd be interesting.
Very
I
interesting.
wonder if it'd be different or similar, and what kind of changes that would bring.
Right.
We don't know. Well, thank you so much for watching and listening along with us. We've had a wonderful time doing this show. It's been an absolute pleasure with you guys. It's been so fun to come and watch the show and talk about it. I feel we've had a fun and kind of goofy panel, which is
We definitely have.
in a good way, because that's the kind of show it is.
Exactly.
'Cause it's like you can't
That's
do
exactly
it too
right.
seriously.
We were the only ones that could have hosted the Houdini and Doyle after
Yes,
show.
That's very true.
only people. And we were the excited ones. We're like, yeah, let's check this show out.
Yeah. We can go on at 10 o'clock on Mondays.
Yes, and 11 o'clock.
11
no,
o'clock on a Tuesday.
And we did 11 on the other days,
Yeah,
too.
we
Oh, on Mondays.
Yeah,
That's right.
Mondays
that's
we were
right.
11 o'clock. Thank you for listening. If you did watch this live or listen live, but YouTube, we love you guys as well. Why don't you let people know where they find you and what other shows you guys are on, because now this one is over.
Well, that may be a wrap on Houdini and Doyle, but
For now.
I am Ty Matthews. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram at Ty Matthews PMA. You can find me on other after shows, including Monday Night Raw, American Ninja Warrior, and Lucha Underground.
Oh my goodness! I'm Frank Moran. You can follow me on Twitter at HappyGoJackie, and I do the Preacher After Show, General Hospital, the GH Report, MasterChef, and Box Office Breakdown with the one, the only Kari Lane.
Aw, thank you. And yes, guys, you can find me on I was going to say online. I'm like, no, we're talking about shows first. Monday nights now on Box Office Breakdown at 10. Yeah, that's when we do that one. At 10. Tuesdays, Hunters, we have our season finale next week at 7. And then I'm just started on Dead of Summer, which is also a really cool show. So if you guys like the horror aspect of this show, should check out Dead of Summer. And Wednesday's Vikings, and we'll see what else comes on. You can find me. You guys did say where you can find me.
Yes,
Okay,
of
good.
course.
I was like, yes, you did, right? All right. It's late, and there's just so much, and so sad, and all the feels. Anyway, you guys can find me online at Kari D Lane. That's KARIDLANE. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for listening, and thank you to the actors and creators and all the people involved with the show, because we loved it. All right, we love you. Thank you for watching. See ya.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.